Begin the meeting. We've got all participants online. When you're ready.
Okay, ready to go?
Yep, when you're ready.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Capitola Planning Commission. And we will first have a roll call, then I'll give the announcement.
Commissioners Christensen,
You need to speak up, please.
Commissioners Christensen,
Commissioner Christensen,
I'm here.
Commissioner Ruth,
Hello?
Commissioner Ruth,
Here.
Commissioner Wilk,
Here.
Commissioner Welch,
Here.
Chair Newman.
Here. Thank you. In accordance with the current shelter-in-place order from Santa Cruz County Health Service and Executive Order N2920 from the Executive Department of the State of California, this Planning Commission meeting is not physically open to the public. As you can see, we have limited staff physically present in the council chambers during the meeting. The rest of the commissioners will participate remotely. This meeting is cablecast live on Charter Communications Cable TV Channel 8 and is being recorded to be rebroadcast on the following Monday and Friday at 1 p.m. on Charter Channel 71 and Comcast Channel 25. Meetings can also be viewed live from the city's website, www.cityofcalifornia.org. Our technician tonight is yet to be named.
Ben Thomas.
Despite being, I'm sorry?
Ben Thomas.
Ben Thomas is our technician. Thank you. Despite being physically closed to the public, participation by the public is still possible. Public comments can be emailed to the Planning Commission for their attention during tonight's meeting. To do that, you need to do the following. In your email, identify the item you wish to comment on in the subject line. Email comments will be accepted from starting now up until I announce that public comment for the particular item is closed. Each emailed comment will be read aloud, not to exceed 3 minutes, or displayed on a screen. Each public comment period will remain open for 3 minutes. Emails received by public comment at ci.capitola.ca.us outside of the comment period outlined above will not be included in the record. We want to thank you for your patience tonight as we adapt to the exigencies of the time for the safety of everyone involved. Next, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So everyone, we really don't have a flag in sight, but we'll begin now. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Anyone else?
The United States of America.
Unmute to the Republic and
under God,
indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. That was not much better than last month, but maybe. Okay, next is oral communications. First is any additions or deletions to the agenda.
No additions well, we did receive additional public comment this afternoon, and we'll get into that with the individual items, but no deletions or additions to the agenda.
Okay, for some reason there's that your notice about how to email the parts of the block that's now gone. Okay, next item is public comments. Normally this is the time for the public to participate by commenting on items that are not on the agenda. And so has anyone sent in any comments that aren't on items on the agenda?
I'm checking right now.
Do we have any already? If not, we will give the public 3 minutes to let us know if they have anything they want to offer. So we'll start that right now, and we'll be back.
We are getting one public comment that our feed is hard to understand. So, Chair, I think it is a little fuzzy. If you can try to readjust your mic.
So,
But
am I hard to understand? Or
that's much
everyone, or what?
better. That's much better.
Okay.
And with that, I don't think we have any additional public comment this evening.
Well, we've got 2 more minutes.
So can I take those 2 minutes by asking a question? This is Peter Wilk.
Yes, that'd be a good use of that time.
So when the chair and I have to recuse ourselves, can we do that just by having the chair put us on mute so we can continue to watch the meeting?
Well, that's interesting because when you recuse yourself, you're supposed to be out of the room, but we don't have a room, so.
Yeah, but we always go in the other room and watch the proceedings anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be
So
cleanest.
I think it's
We don't
okay to
have.
watch the meeting.
If on mute so we can't participate, then that's the same thing.
I think the objective of having the recused commissioners out of the room is that they don't influence anyone by facial expressions or reactions. So,
So we'll turn our video off.
yeah, so as long as we can't see you, we can watch it.
Okay, and I can control that.
I have a
So-
question. Is Commissioner Christensen present?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you on the roll call.
Oh, yep, I'm here.
Any other comments while we wait for the public comments? And are we going to have any staff comments?
Yes, I have prepared staff comments.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with that, and if any public comments come in the next minute or so, we'll reopen that.
Okay. This evening, I'm going to give you an overview on our efforts to date on the shelter-in-place order regarding planning and building. Typically, I would do this during the director's report, but I thought since we do have 2 recusals tonight, I would go ahead and do that up front during staff comments. So, as you know, on March 31st, the shelter-in-place was placed into order in the county of Santa Cruz. A supplemental order went into place last Friday on April 30th. And under that supplemental order, all construction was open up. Prior to that, only essential services were allowed to continue. So as of last Friday, all construction is allowed to resume. And also, on May 6th, yesterday, there was an additional order easing restrictions on low-risk businesses. So I'm going to give you an overview of the supplemental order and what that means for construction, and also the order easing restrictions on low-risk businesses. So for construction, in the order that came out, it opened up all of construction, and it specified that anyone working under that allowance must have a distancing protocols in place, which was there's great guidance included within the order as Appendix A. It's on our website. It's also available on the county health website. And in that Appendix A, and this is for all businesses as they begin to open under our shelter in place as we enter into phase 2 of this, it outlines exactly what businesses must include. So there must be signage on site. There's also standards to protect employee health, such as possibly taking temperatures as they come to work, monitoring folks' health, making sure if they are sick that they stay home. Anyone that can work from home should work from home under those standards. Also is crowd prevention and outlining ways in which to keep feet apart. So for checkout stands at your grocery store, you see the lines that have been put on the ground, similar for all businesses as we slowly open things, putting in measures to make sure people are 6 feet apart. Also, prevention efforts for unnecessary contact that we're practicing within our building inspections right now. If the building inspector does not need to touch something, then we're doing everything correctly. So we ask folks that if something has to be looked at behind a cabinet, that they make sure all cabinets' doors are open before the building inspector gets there. And we also ask that the on-site person not be on site during our inspections at this time. And then also increase standards for sanitization. And also included in the May 30th order was Appendix B. And that Appendix B is for construction requirements. So every site is required now to have a COVID-19 supervisor to enforce the guidance that's included in Appendix B. And it outlines safe distancing practices and a lot of the practices that we saw in the safety protocol in the previous slide. This site-specific supervisor is required to be on the construction site at all times while construction activities are occurring. It can be one of the construction workers that is on the site working, so they can kind of wear 2 hats while they're on the site. And they're required to put together protocol and review the protocol with the workers and visitors at the construction site. So they're the people that are keeping the site safe and making sure everyone's educated on what protocols are in place at each site. And next, this is the order that came out yesterday, easing restrictions on low-risk businesses. So this is as of tonight at midnight, or tonight at 11:59. The restrictions have been lifted for retail businesses. It's limited to curbside pickup only. You're not allowed to go into an establishment to buy something, but you can order ahead and pick it up outside. This is in line with what restaurants have been doing, but very clear that you're not allowed to go into the building. Appendix A, which I showed you previously, or I outlined previously, requiring signs and safety in terms of distancing, that applies to all of these businesses as well. So that every business will have to have that Appendix A displayed in some fashion and educate all of their employees of all of the distancing protocols that are in place for each business. So as of tomorrow, we'll start to see more businesses open. And with that, that concludes my overview. All of our applications, actually I should mention this, all the applications as staff, we're taking everything in electronically at this point. We do have a bin to collect plans that they can be dropped off. So it's been working really smoothly with the applicants. So since last Friday, we've been issuing building permits, and we've been asking people to be a little bit patient with us. We're trying to move through them as quickly as possible, but we've got 1 full-time employee and a half-time building official, so we're trying to get through those as quickly as possible, but it is taking some time. So we've been issuing permits this week, and then planning applications continue to come in, and mostly through our electronic means, but also applicants are welcome to drop off paper plans at City Hall. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I would like to see the city, the planning department, whoever would assume this responsibility, to see about getting the village businesses open other than restaurants and bars. Most have only 1 or 2 employees, and they could limit the customers in there. I see no reason why we couldn't ask the county to open those businesses, or in fact take an action ourselves to allow them to open.
I can discuss that with internal staff. Right now, the way in which it works is that we have to go through whatever the order is in place, but there is some flexibility in getting approvals by the health official. So I'll carry forth that message.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
So I assume we have not received any additional public comments. Do we have any commission comments? Seeing none. Next item is approval of the minutes of March 5, 2020. Do we have any additions or changes to the minutes? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
I'd motion to approve the minutes.
That's it. Commissioner Christensen? Who made the motion?
Courtney, sorry. Commissioner Christensen.
Okay. And all in favor? I guess we have to do it by roll call.
Who made the
So-
second? Can we clarify motion?
Yeah, we need a second.
Commissioner Ruth made the second.
Okay, ready to vote? Any discussion? Commissioner Ruth?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilkes?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner,
Well, aye.
yeah, okay. Chair says aye. Okay. I assume we've covered all the staff comments.
Yes.
Katie?
Yes, we have.
Okay, I'd like to, and that also would cover the director's report, item 5.
Correct. And I'd like to, this is Director Herlihy, and I think every time we speak, it would be very helpful if you introduce yourself before you speak. I did get one comment from the public asking, saying it's difficult to understand who's speaking, so please introduce yourself before you speak.
Okay. And is the director going to have any additional report at the end of the meeting?
No.
Okay. And next, I'd like to skip to item 6, which is any commission communications other than what we've already had. Does any commissioner have any additional communications? Hearing none, we'll now go to the public hearings, and both myself and Commissioner Wilkes are ineligible for these 2 hearings because of proximity of property. So I will turn the meeting over to Vice Chairman Root, and Commissioner Wilkes and I will probably not return since these are the last 2 items on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening to the members of the public that are listening. We have 2 public hearings tonight. Public hearings are intended to provide an opportunity for public discussion of each item listed as a public hearing. The following procedure is as follows. 1, the staff presentation. 2, public discussion. And we will hesitate after the staff presentation to allow time to submit any emails or comments. 3, the Planning Commission comments. 4, we will close the public portion of the hearing. And 5, the Planning Commission will make a decision. Okay, our first public hearing tonight is 319 Riverview Avenue. This is a design permit and conditional use permit for reconstruction of an historic structure with new addition for a second unit located within the CV Central Village zoning district. Okay, Katie or Matt, whoever's doing the presentation, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Ruth. This is Associate Planner Matt Orbach. Tonight, the applicant is proposing to demolish and reconstruct an existing 1,777 square foot historic structure and build a 2,876 square foot 2-story addition, which includes a second residential unit in the CV Central Village zoning district. The project requires a design permit, conditional use permit, and an appealable coastal development permit. Next slide. The existing residence at 319 Riverview Avenue is an historic 1-story single-family home with a large shed located in the rear yard adjacent to the Riverview pathway. The residence and shed are located on a 9,714 square foot lot, which is the largest lot in the Riverview Avenue neighborhood by far. The portion of the lot between the Riverview Pathway and the Soquel Creek is approximately 1,590 square feet and must remain as open space. Next slide. The property is located in the Central Village Zoning District and the Environmentally Sensitive Habitat Area, or ESHA. The lot is also included in both the Riverview Avenue Residential Overlay District and as a contributing structure within the Old Riverview Historic District, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. The home is in disrepair and in need of major rehabilitation. The houses on Riverview Avenue are a mix of 1, 2, and 3-story residential structures, many of which are historic. So here you have the existing site plan. I'll just point out a few of the landmarks here. So Soquel Creek is on the left, the 1,500 square foot open space, then the Riverview Pathway, existing shed, the existing residence with the porch called out, and then the Riverview Avenue street on the right. This is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the shed's been removed and the reconstructed historic residence relocated to the northwest of its existing location. Next slide. The proposed first-story plan includes a reconstructed historic residence, which was, as I mentioned, relocated, and the deck is extended. It also includes a 2-car garage and a 2-car carport for 4 on-site parking spaces. Next slide, please. The proposed second-story plan has the reconstructed historic residence relocated and the deck extended. The deck of the second story extends to the ridge line of the reconstructed historic structure. Here are the existing and proposed east elevations from Riverview Avenue. Next slide. These are the existing and proposed west elevations from the Riverview Pathway or the Soquel Creek. Click, please. Just to call out here, the reconstructed historic structure is proposed to be raised 3 feet from grade to provide additional flood protection for the structure. This will match the floor height of the reconstructed historic structures on the adjacent properties to both the north and the south. Here we have the existing and proposed north elevations. Next slide. And the existing and proposed south elevations. Click, please. One important item to note is that the sight lines from a 6-foot person standing on the Riverview Pathway are shown here. The more sharply angled upwards one would be the portions of the structure that go almost all the way to the Riverview Pathway, while the lower one would be the ridge line where the upper story deck extends to. Any modification to a historic structure must comply with the Secretary of the Interior standards to qualify for a CEQA, or California Environmental Quality Act exemption. Architectural historian Leslie Dill reviewed 4 revisions of the project for compatibility with the Secretary of the Interior standards. Upon the 4th submittal, Ms. Dill found that the proposed residential rehabilitation and addition project has been designed to comply as well as feasible with the standards, and that while the proposed project does not strictly meet the guidelines outlined in standards 5 and 6, due to the nature of the resource and the reasons for significance, the project appears to meet the intent of those guidelines. Therefore, the project qualifies for a CEQA exemption. Capitola Municipal Code, Section 1760030C, states that in considering an application for a conditional use involving a material change of an historic feature, the Planning Commission shall weigh the benefits of the proposed change against the detriment to the public welfare caused by a change in the feature. In approving any such change, the Commission shall make one of the following findings. Either 1, that the action proposed will not be significantly detrimental to the historic feature in which the change in use is to occur, or the applicant has demonstrated that denial of the application would result in hardship that is so substantial as to outweigh the corresponding benefit to the public of maintenance to the historic feature or structure. Based on the historic report, the finding can be made that the project will not be significantly detrimental to the historic feature in which the change in use is to occur. Next slide, please. Based on the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, National Flood Insurance Program Flood Insurance Rate Map, 319 Riverview Avenue is located in a Special Flood Hazard Area Zone AE. The firm, flood insurance rate map, shows that 319 Riverview Avenue is located in the regulatory floodway with a base flood elevation of approximately 19 feet. Next slide, please. Here are the existing and proposed west elevations again. Click, please. For reference, the red line here is the FEMA base flood elevation of 19 feet. And then one more, please. And then, as I mentioned previously, this is showing that the reconstructed historic structure will be raised 3 feet. New residential structures in this flood zone are not allowed to have conditioned or habitable space below the base flood elevation. Historic structures, however, are allowed to be reconstructed with conditioned or habitable space below the base flood elevation. The proposed project complies with these restrictions, and conditions of approval requiring a no-rise study and an elevation certificate will be included in a project approval under conditions 25 and 26. There's also an existing pathway between the residences at 319 Riverview Avenue and 317 Riverview Avenue that leads from Riverview Avenue to the Riverview Pathway. The path is not designated on the City of Capitola's Coastal Land Use Plan Shoreline Access Map. However, the California Coastal Commission expressed concerns related to the elimination of the pathway proposed in the plan set that went to the Architecture and Site Review Committee on November 13, 2019. In subsequent revisions, the gates were removed from the proposed site plan and landscape plan, and those plans were updated to show the pathway remaining. Condition of approval number 27 has been included to ensure that the pathway is kept free from obstructions so that the public access to the Riverview pathway is maintained. With the inclusion of this condition of approval, staff was able to make the required findings for the appealable coastal development permit. The project is also located in the Soquel Creek riparian corridor, which is an environmentally sensitive habitat area. Under the Capitola Municipal Code, Soquel Creek riparian corridor regulations, the project must comply with the following requirements. A. Development in areas adjacent to the Soquel Creek riparian corridor shall be sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade the area. The proposed development is located 39 feet from the bank of the Soquel Creek. There are no significant proposed changes to the Riverview pathway or the portion of the lot between the Riverview pathway and the Soquel Creek, and the large mature cypress tree is to remain. The development is sited and designed to prevent impacts which would significantly degrade the area. B. A minimum 35-foot setback from the outer edge of the riparian vegetation shall be required for all new development. On the heavily developed east side of the lagoon and creek, from Stockton Avenue to Center Street, the setback requirement shall be measured from the bank of the Soquel Creek. The proposed development is located on the east side of the Soquel Creek and is 39 feet from the bank, so the proposed development complies with this requirement. C. The applicant shall be required to retain a qualified professional to determine the location of the outer edge of riparian vegetation on the site and to evaluate the potential impact of development on riparian vegetation. This actually is on the heavily developed east side, so this requirement is not applicable. D. Removal of native riparian trees within the Soquel Creek riparian corridor shall be prohibited unless it is determined by the Community Development Director that such removal is in the public interest by reason of good forestry practice, disease of the tree, or safety considerations. The proposed project does not include the removal of any native riparian trees within the Soquel Creek riparian corridor, and the large mature cypress tree located between the Riverview pathway and Soquel Creek is to remain. E. Snags or standing dead trees shall not be removed unless in imminent danger of falling. Project, as mentioned before, does not include the removal of any standing dead trees. Next slide, please. F. Coastal development permit applications within or adjacent to the Soquel Creek riparian corridor shall contain a landscaping plan which sets forth the location and extent of any proposed modification to existing vegetation and the locations, kinds, and extent of new landscaping. A landscape plan is included in this plan set for the proposed development. Approval of the landscape plan by the Community Development Department is included in the conditions of approval under condition number 6. G. Conformance to the Capitola Erosion Control Ordinance shall be required. A drainage plan shall be provided for all projects adjacent to or in the riparian corridor. In order to ensure compliance with this requirement, the Public Works Department added conditions number 10 and 11 to the conditions of approval. So with that, Staff recommends the Planning Commission review and approve project number 180609 based on the conditions of approval and findings.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Are there any questions for staff from planning commissioners? Commissioner Christensen, any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Wilkes, any questions?
It's recused.
Commissioner Wilkes, any questions?
I think Commissioner
Oh, I'm
Wilkes.
sorry, he's recused himself.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Welch, any questions?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, I do have one. I spoke to Carolyn Swift on Tuesday, and at that time she hadn't reviewed the latest changes to the plan, but she did note that it conformed to the state standards per Leslie Dill. Now, she sent a lengthy email today, and I didn't see that until not long before the meeting. So I'm wondering, does she raise any new issues in that email?
I don't believe any of those issues were new. We, as I mentioned, the architectural historian reviewed 4 different revisions of the project, and all of those items, I believe, were covered. It was a difficult project from many angles, and we met with the applicant and the historian multiple times, actually together, to revise the plans, make improvements, change the massing, and I believe we got it to a point, well, obviously we got it to a point where the architectural historian was comfortable providing a positive recommendation.
Okay, and then I didn't notice anywhere on the plan or in the conditions that the public path will be marked as a public right-of-way. It's funny, my wife's family bought their house on the river in 1949, and she grew up there, and she wasn't aware that path even existed, and I don't imagine many people do, so I'm wondering if it can be marked.
Yeah, it's not identified in the local coastal plan shoreline access map. I think Coastal Commission just caught wind of it when reviewing the project, and the fact that it had previously been open and had been proposed to have gates on it, and so requested that those gates be removed. Their request did not include any requested signage, so we didn't include that in the condition.
Okay.
The
Okay,
other item
thank you.
on that-
Then,
Sorry, one more item on that, Vice Chair Ruth, was the archaeological question that Carolyn Swift brought up. I verified that this is not in the archaeological review zone, so that's not a requirement. We did not need to put those extra conditions on this project.
okay. Did that raise any questions for any other commission members?
Not for me.
None for
Okay.
me either. Just Commissioner
Okay.
Christensen.
Then we'll open this up to the public. You may send an email, and we will allow 3 minutes to hear any comments from the public on this item.
The applicant sent a letter in and asked that it be read into the meeting, so I'm going to read that for you. This came in this afternoon. So, dear commissioners, this unique property probably has more development and building restrictions than any parcel in the city of Capitola, if not in Santa Cruz County. Let's start with this property is in an appealable coastal zone. It is in a floodplain of Soquel Creek and is in a historic district. This parcel is 3 times larger than any parcel in the vicinity of this developable parcel. It is 9,714 square feet, which may be the largest residential parcel in the village proper. 2,730 square foot has been designated as open space with a river bench land and river walk. The developable part of the parcel is in the FEMA floodplain to a depth of 8 feet 9 inches. This means that the bottom of the joist must be 8 feet 9 inches above the existing grade, and the finished floor has to be a minimum of 10 feet above existing grade. All new conditioned living areas need to be elevated to a minimum of 10 feet above existing grade. Garages and unconditioned areas like entry and storage can go into floodplain with a bit of building restrictions. The existing house is in a historic district. It is not a contributing structure in the district. It is not listed in the Capitola Architectural Survey or the Historic Context Statement of the city. The existing house is not salvageable as a structure in any part. The building and the shed will have been removed from the property, have to be removed from the property. There's nothing there that can be saved, but the living part can be duplicated to the exact structure, Unit 1, that and detail plus or minus of what exists now in the lot. We intend to reproduce this house living area to exactly what you see now, but bring it forward on the lot up to the pathway, as most other houses are located along the pathway. Historic houses can be rebuilt into the FEMA floodplain. The interior will be altered, but it is not subject to design review of historic review. This structure will be a separate living structure of 1,232 square foot, 2-bedroom and 2-bath home. We will be raising the house 3 feet to protect from flooding, as it has been the practice along Soquel Creek. This will be considered Unit 1 of a duplex development as is zoned for the property. A new house, Unit 2, will be built behind Unit 1, separated by an upper deck area that gives the picture that they are separated structures. The second unit is 32 feet from the path. This structure is governed by FEMA regulations, and the living will have to be located at the second-story level, with the garages and entry on the lower level. The total footprint of this house is less than the footprint of all the surrounding structures. Lot size divided by structure. In design, we created separation of the two structures by placing a 10-foot wide deck between the structures. If you walk the pathway in the historic district, you will see that it is not uncommon to see riverside structures silhouetted by a neighboring structure to the rear. This Unit 2 house is only 1,958 square feet of living space. Consider this is a 9,700 square foot lot. On page 5, south elevation, you can see the rear structure is remotely visible from a 6-foot person walking down the pathway. This house was intentionally set back to not dominate Unit 1, as agreed by Leslie Dill. We are providing a 4-car garage with the structure. With the many restrictions on design and development on this property, we have made a very accommodating design that takes historic requirements and neighborhood concerns into consideration. We fit into the City of Capitola's zoning regulations, including parking, open space, setbacks, height, and we feel that we make all Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation standards, and the city historian has agreed. This is not a big house. We thank Leslie Dill and city planning staff for their observations and requested changes. We did complete some significant design and massing changes as recommended. We went through 5 sets of changes over 1.5 years to get her approval. Please take into consideration the fact that the Unit 2 house is in the FEMA floodplain and is required to be built as a second story. The rear house does not have to mimic the historic house. In fact, it shouldn't. This project actually has less lot coverage than the neighboring 2 houses to the property. It should be remembered that this is the CV zone. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you. The Lamonaco family and Dennis Norton. And we have additional public comment.
I'm sorry, Katie, there are no public comments?
No, there is more.
Okay. Okay, we've had ample time for public comments to be submitted. Do you have the public comment?
Yeah, there's another one. So, sorry. I was trying to find the feature that reads it out loud to you, so you don't have to hear me read, but I'm going to read this one to you as well, because I can't find the feature. This is from Vineyard Fam at sbcglobal.net, Nelson and Leslie Vineyard. We live directly across Riverview from the proposed construction. The meeting tonight is the first review of this proposal that we are aware of, as it was posted on the site. That posting was no longer up today, so we were not sure it was still being reviewed. I was shocked to see in the agenda packet that this project was reviewed on March 5th. We were not made aware of that hearing and have never seen plans for construction, as when today's hearing was posted, we were in shelter in place. Sadly, by now, it appears the plans are to be approved by the city. For the record, we would like to have it noted that this is a huge structure further deteriorating any beach quaintness or bohemian nature of this neighborhood. This area is overcrowded as is, and a duplex will congest the neighborhood further, not to mention the loss of views on the creek and the green parkway on the other side. It is very sad to see approval of cramming in as large a structure as possible time after time on this block. I don't know why we were never made aware of the earlier review when I feel our comments could have been taken into consideration. Nelson and Leslie Vineyard.
Okay, thank you. This is the house directly across the street?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's no other public comments.
There is
Commission?
There's another
Pardon?
two more public comments.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. The proposal as presented is a complete demolition of a historic property. While the structure is in need of repair, it is no worse than many other properties in the historic district that have been successfully renovated while still maintaining the historic nature, feature, size, location on lot, materials, and character of the original structure. The proposal retains absolutely nothing from the original beach bungalow other than to mimic the front facade with all new materials. The riverside gardens and setback placement of the original structure will be totally lost with the proposed changes. The new placement of the front of the house within 2 feet of the public pathway will undoubtedly interfere with the public's use of this beautiful Capitola Riverwalk. The city will be sacrificing the natural beauty and harmony of this delightful village landmark. The massive 2.5-story addition dwarfs the original historic property, dwarfs the neighborhood historic properties at 317 and 323, and completely encloses and dwarfs the historic property at 321 Riverview Avenue on 2 sides. Built within 12 inches of the existing walls of 321, there will not be enough room to swing a hammer between the 2 houses, all the way up to 25 feet in the air. That is 2.5 times taller than the existing roof line of 321. The structure will completely eliminate all light into the courtyard of 321, which the city historian Carolyn Swift claimed was a historic feature of 321. Surely this courtyard can no longer be of any concern of the city or its historians if they approve this proposal to enclose it by 25-foot walls on 2 sides. Ms. Dills, reporting concerning Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, clearly states that the proposed project does not meet the guidelines outlined in Standards 5 and 6. By approving the proposal, the committee is setting a precedent that all future submissions must also be approved as long as they demonstrate an intent to satisfy the standards. As Carolyn Swift stated, this project puts the entire historic district at risk. By approving the project or anything close to this enormous structure on this lot, the committee can no longer reasonably expect to hide behind its arbitrary rules and regulations to protect the historic district. It must allow other historic homeowners the same flexibility to build 2.5-story structures without meeting the arbitrary line of site setbacks to pretend the addition can't be seen from the street or the river. That was sent in by Jay Starr. And I believe there's one more. This is John P. Milner. Sightlines are also required from the front or side or street side according to previous approvals or denials. The new structure is 2.5 times taller than the previous structure and obviously within the sightlines. parking. The location of the garage will eliminate street parking in front of 319 and in front of 321. Any parking in front of 321 would necessitate that vehicles block egress from 321 courtyard, creating a danger to its occupants. Street parking should be eliminated from the front of 321. This next one.
At the end of the,
I think that's,
okay.
yeah,
So we've had two public comments.
okay, and then one more, two more.
Two more?
Yes. This is from Rich Dide. The historic architect report contained phrases like effects on historic district not considered. What impact might arise if it were? Has any other historic structure been reconstructed in toto? Thank you, Rich Dide. And then we have a public comment that says, I own the property immediately south of the property and support approval. I have a few technical comments. A boy.
Okay. So there's no more public comments that have been submitted. We can bring it back to the Planning Commission at this time. We'll close the public portion of the hearing.
You know, there's one more that just says any way to show us, and I'm not quite sure what. Oh, who is speaking? We already discussed that. So please make sure to. This is Katie Hurley, the director that's been reading the public comment, and it seems. Oh, and we have a public comment from a phone that says, I have a comment. Please let me comment. Chair, you did not say how to mail in the comments. So I'll bring back up the slide so they can see the public comment, how to. On the top of every slide, to make public comment, you should email, which must have been done if it showed up in the public comment, but public comment at ci, as in city, .capitola.ca.us. So again, public comment at ci.capitola.ca.us. Oh.
Okay, well, we'll allow another minute for public comments.
Okay, we did receive one more public comment. I own the property immediately south of the property and support approval. I have a few technical comments. And that goes on about public path, but that can be dealt with later. Please approve the application. Steve Woodside, 317 Riverview.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Katie. With that, we'll close the public comment portion, and we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission members for discussion. Commissioner Welch, any comments, questions?
The only comment I have is I think based on the fact that this historic district, riparian area, floodplain, and the coastal review zone, they've done a good job of trying to meet all those standards.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Christensen?
I see, I mean, like they've gone back and forth with trying to meet all the standards. But have we heard from the people that own 321, the smaller adjacent residents, the single story? Have they put any input in, or are they? Katie?
Yes, this is
Back.
Director Hurley speaking. I'm not exactly sure because in the emails that we received, we did not, it wasn't clear which homes they lived in. So I apologize, but I at this point I'd have to say I do not know if the smaller house that is along the street has commented this evening. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I just had a further comment. I appreciate the consideration of the pathway, and I know how exhausting it can be going back and forth with all the different requirements. So I appreciate the effort.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Christensen. I just have a couple of comments. I know the Lamonicos have owned that property for at least 5 or 6 decades that I'm aware of, maybe even longer. And during that time, they've watched Riverview Avenue from Stockton Avenue all the way to the Trestle develop with a lot of 2-story homes. They've never taken that opportunity, and I think this time they are taking that opportunity, and they've done a really dynamic job to preserve the historical aspect of the property, yet make it useful for the future. So that's my comments. I think we're ready for a vote. May I have the roll call, please, unless there's any other comments.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
We need a motion.
A motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion and a second.
This is Commissioner Welch. I would move that we approve the conditional use permit and design review 18-0609 at 319 Riverview.
I second. So Commissioner
Okay.
Christensen, second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Welch and a second by Commissioner Christensen to approve the project with the attached conditions. May I have the roll call, please?
Okay. Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Welch,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ruth.
Aye. The motion carries on a 3-0 vote. Okay, that brings us to the next public hearing, which is item 4. Is it 4? Anyway, it's public hearing B, 115 San Jose Avenue. This is a master conditional use permit for the mixed-use Capitola Mercantile, including specific allowances for to-go food establishments, tasting rooms, retail sales, personal services, and designated shared seating areas with on-site consumption of beer and wine located within the Central Village zoning district. May I have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Vice Chair Ruth. This is Associate Planner Matt Orbach again. I want to apologize ahead of time. This report is a lot more text heavy because it's mainly about conforming with the regulations here. So the applicant is proposing
Can you speak a little closer into the microphone? It's very difficult to hear.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
It's usually the last complaint about my loud voice. The applicant tonight is proposing a master conditional use permit that includes designated shared seating areas with on-site consumption of beer and wine for the Capitola Mercantile within the Central Village zoning district. As you mentioned, the permit would allow a variety of use types to be considered as permitted uses in the structure and would allow some businesses that sell alcoholic beverages to utilize the interior and exterior quasi-public seating areas as a shared premises for consumption of alcohol. The property is centrally located within the Central Village along San Jose Avenue and Esplanade. The Capitola Mercantile contains 11 commercial tenant spaces totaling 8,735 square feet, which are currently a mix of retail and restaurant establishments. Click, please. The development also includes the adjacent building to the south, which includes a 2-story structure with a residential space on the second floor, a 535 square foot garage on the first floor, and a 180 square foot commercial space on the first floor, currently occupied by Left Coast Sausage Works. The Mercantile is surrounded by 1- and 2-story structures with retail, restaurant, and hotel uses. And here are the couple of pictures just so that you can get a little bit of color before we go into the text. So what is a master conditional use permit? A master conditional use permit explicitly allows a variety of principally permitted and conditionally permitted uses as permitted uses within a specific location. A tenant may change one use to another use administratively if the proposed use is established as an allowed use in the master conditional use permit. Master conditional use permits are regulated under the Capitola Municipal Code. Next. So now I'm going to go through each of the requirements, and I warn you there are a lot. A, to qualify for a master use permit, more than 10,000 square feet of building must be located upon a parcel or multiple adjoining parcels under one ownership at the time the first tenant use permit is utilized. The total square footage of the Capitola Mercantile and the adjacent structure with a residential unit and one commercial suite, the two structures that will be regulated under the proposed permit, is 10,635 square feet, so the project qualifies for a master conditional use permit. B, the property must conform to the city parking and landscaping requirements. I split these onto two slides, so this first staff analysis is just in terms of parking. In terms of parking, the existing uses in the Capitola Mercantile require 44.45 parking spaces, but there are only 41 parking spaces provided on the site. However, under conditional use permit 05035, which permitted the expansion of Caruso's from a takeout restaurant to a standard sit-down restaurant, 41 parking spaces were found to be adequate because uses in a mixed-use development have different peak use time periods and therefore combined require less parking than if the same land uses were separately developed. The uses included in the proposed master conditional use permit would maintain parking at the current level of 41 spaces. The second half is about landscaping here. So in terms of landscaping, 2,835 square feet of landscaping is required to meet the 10% landscaped open space requirement for the CV zoning district. The proposed site plan provides 2,842 square feet of landscaping, which meets the 10% requirement. And now we're on requirement C, which is the main component of a master conditional use permit. When approving any application, the Planning Commission shall determine the uses allowed by the master use permit by selecting from those principal permitted uses and conditional uses as listed in the zoning district regulations, which are, without the imposition of conditions not in the master use permit, compatible with the master use and the surrounding properties. And I split these up into the principally permitted and conditionally permitted, so you'll see a couple slides here. The proposed master conditional use permit includes the following principally permitted uses to be permitted administratively. 1, retail business establishments. 2, personal service establishments such as nail or hair salons, massage, health spas. 3, beach rental equipment. 4, art galleries. 5, antique sales. 6, all permitted uses within the zoning district. Next slide, please. The uses which typically require a conditional use permit but would be allowed to be permitted administratively under the proposed master conditional use permit are listed below, followed by required mitigation measures that would be required for the use. 7. Takeout restaurants, including but not limited to fruit and vegetable stands, meat and fish markets, candy and ice cream stores, local home food products, coffee roasters, oyster bars and seafood, baked goods, and spices and herbs. These would be limited to a maximum of 6 seats and a maximum of 160 square feet of open area to customers for consumption. 8. Business establishments / tasting rooms that sell or dispense beer and or wine. These would also have a maximum of 6 seats, a maximum of 160 square feet of consumption area. They require a letter of necessity and convenience from the Capitola Chief of Police. All new businesses that sell or dispense beer and or wine, except for beer or wine manufacturer tasting rooms, will still require a California Department of ABC, or Alcoholic Beverage Control, license. Not more than 50% of the combined leasable commercial floor area of the Mercantile, 3,212 square feet, may be utilized for this use type, not including the shared premises areas. This is included in condition number 13 as well. I did want to point out that the staff report and the master conditional use permit draft document published with the Planning Commission agenda packet contained an incorrect number for the total leasable commercial floor area for the Mercantile. So any project approval tonight should note that the total leasable commercial floor area is the previously stated 3,212 square feet, and that the master conditional use permit and condition of approval number 13 be modified to include this number. I also wanted to note that this use type does not include businesses that sell or dispense distilled spirits. Those types of businesses would require an ABC license and a conditional use permit with Planning Commission approval. The number 9 use is commercial entertainment establishments such as theaters and amusement centers. These would be limited to a maximum suite size of 1,400 square feet. And just to note that the existing gaming arcade in the Mercantile complies with the 1,400 square foot limit. So that was it for the uses. Now we're going to move on to D. Hereafter, prior to the leasing of any space upon the subject property, the holder of the master use permit must inform all prospective tenants or tenants renewing their extending leases of the conditions of the master use permit and of the requirements of this section. This requirement is included as condition of approval number 8 and is included in the master conditional use permit document as well. We took that step because in doing research previously, it's sometimes hard to find where these are located. So we echoed the conditions of approval in the master conditional use permit so they can be found in the same location. E, after a master use permit has been issued, tenant use permits shall be approved by the Community Development Director upon inspection of the property and verification that it and its landscaping are in good repair and that all other conditions of the master use permit are being met. This requirement is included as condition of approval number 9 and is included in the master conditional use permit document. F, a tenant use permit may be revoked in the manner provided in section 1760120 if the tenant is the cause of violation of a condition of the master use permit. This requirement is included as condition of approval number 10 and is included in the master conditional use permit document as well. And G, any approval of the master use permit may include size limitations for each category of allowable tenant use permits, subject to the following limitations. No tenant use permits may be issued for any activity use that will occupy over 12,000 square feet of building area. Above this limit, activity uses must obtain an ordinary conditional use permit. Next slide, please. There are 3 size limitations included under the proposed master conditional use permit. First, the master conditional use permit includes commercial entertainment establishments with a maximum size of 1,400 square feet as a permitted use. Any commercial entertainment establishments greater than 1,400 square feet would require a conditional use permit with Planning Commission approval. Second, the master conditional use permit includes a restriction for business establishments that sell or dispense alcoholic beverages that not more than 50% of the leasable floor area of the Mercantile, or 3,212 square feet, may be utilized for this use type, not including shared premises areas. There are currently 4 approved conditional use permits for alcohol sales within the Capitola Mercantile: Caruso's Restaurant, Capitola Wine Bar, the Daily Grind Coffee Shop, and a proposed pizzeria. The total existing floor area occupied by uses that sell or dispense alcoholic beverages is 2,770 square feet, which is 43% of combined commercial floor area within the Capitola Mercantile. The 50% limitation would allow an additional 442 square feet of floor area to be converted to business establishments that sell or dispense alcoholic beverages. As I mentioned earlier, that there was a error in the staff report and master conditional use permit document, so if any project approvals should note the correct floor area of 3,212 square feet. Third, takeout restaurants and business establishments that sell or dispense beer and or wine will be limited to 160 square feet of food and beverage consumption area available to customers. The operational provision of limiting the seating area of to-go food and beverage establishments to 160 square feet is consistent with the new zoning code. H. The Planning Commission may deny a master conditional use to all or a portion of any area described in subsection A if the Planning Commission finds that particular circumstances of the property, its existing use, or its proposed use are such that the ordinary conditional use permit process is necessary for adequate protection of the community's land use interests. The Planning Commission will review the application and make this determination tonight. Next slide. So now we're done with the master conditional use permit requirements. I'm going to move on to just some specific areas that we wanted to review. So the first one is alcohol. The applicant is proposing to include businesses that can sell beer and or wine, including tasting, with a 6-seat maximum in the master conditional use permit. These businesses, except for beer and or wine manufacturer tasting rooms, would still require an ABC license and a letter of necessity and convenience from the Chief of Police, but there would be no Planning Commission review. The ABC does not require beer and wine manufacturers with active ABC licenses to acquire separate licenses for tasting rooms in different locations from their primary location. However, if they wanted to utilize the shared premises, they would still have to agree to the same conditions as other businesses utilizing the shared premises. And as I mentioned earlier, too, businesses that sell or dispense distilled spirits would still require an ABC license and a conditional use permit with Planning Commission approval, and they would also not be allowed to participate in the shared premises area. So what is that shared premises area I keep referring to? The applicant is proposing to allow the businesses that sell beer and wine to utilize the interior and exterior quasi-public seating areas as a shared premises for consumption of beer and wine. Capitola staff worked with staff from the state ABC licensing department to establish the boundaries of the shared premises areas where consumption of alcohol will be allowed. These areas include, click please, the quasi-public seating areas in the lobby in the center of the building, click please, a proposed outdoor patio adjacent to the northwest entrance to the building, and a small proposed outdoor patio adjacent to the southwest entrance to the building. Next slide, please. The ABC staff also established conditions for ABC license applications for the mercantile. Businesses wishing to utilize the shared premises seating areas would apply for a Type 41 on-sale beer and wine eating place license. The shared premises conditions are as follows. 1. Containers must be distinctive in design and color and be easily distinguishable from containers used for non-alcoholic beverages. 2. Containers must significantly differ in appearance from containers utilized by other licensees within the mercantile. 3. Licensees must monitor the areas under their control. 4. Sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages in or on the patio areas is limited to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. 5. Volume of entertainment must not be audible beyond the area under control of the licensee. And 6. Sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption off the premises is prohibited. Once licensed, all licensees would be responsible for the shared premises, including any violations of the law occurring on the licensed premises. And the last area that we wanted to cover is the Capitola Wine Bar. Suite 110, which is the current location of Capitola Wine Bar, is permitted as a retail wine shop and tasting room with 6 seats or less under conditional use permit 06011. In the 2019 parking study for the mercantile, however, it was identified as a restaurant use, so the parking demand for a full restaurant is already accounted for in the existing on-site parking of 41 spaces. Staff has listed restaurant on the list of suites with specifically permitted uses within the master conditional use permit. The master conditional use permit would make the current use of the property compliant. The master conditional use permit also includes an allowance for expanding a future kitchen for the Capitola Wine Bar into Suite 111, which is the proposed pizzeria next door, so that the tenant may expand into a full restaurant use in the future. The Capitola Wine Bar currently holds a Type 42 on-sale beer and wine ABC license. This license type is not allowed to participate in the shared premises. However, if a kitchen was added to Suite 110, the Capitola Wine Bar, by expanding into Suite 111, the Capitola Wine Bar could apply for a Type 41 on-sale beer and wine eating place ABC license and participate in the shared premises. Next slide, please. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission review and approve application number 190186, subject to the conditions below and based upon the findings. If the Planning Commission does choose to deny the application, the language from the municipal code should be included in the motion for denial, and I have that language available if it's needed.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for your presentation. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Welch?
Vice Chair Booth, I do have one question. There's a lot of information there, Matt. So I understand that under Condition 9, that the businesses that sell, dispense, distilled spirits have their license, and that they are not allowed to utilize the shared premise area. But it didn't really identify like the arcade area as a shared area, and that would be a concern of mine, is that they would be, that we keep alcohol out of there. Is that something that's still covered under that?
Yes, the alcohol would not be allowed in the arcade areas. That's not part of the shared premises, and it was actually discussed on our site visit with the representatives from the ABC, the chief of police and planning staff, and the owner's representative.
And during that on-site visit with the ABC, they'll have strict regulations about signage and where alcohol is allowed and not allowed, so signs would be up prohibiting alcohol from the arcade.
Okay, Commissioner Welch, again, very good, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Christensen, any questions for staff?
I was wondering if the outdoor premises, I think it was on the outdoor little patios that are existing, is there going to be any divisions proposed from public space to private space? Because right now it's pretty open. Is that anything that's going to be set in place?
Yes, there will be fencing provided around the perimeter of those two exterior shared seating areas.
Okay.
Any other questions from any commissioners? Okay, I have none, so we'll go to the public input portion. And if there's any member of the public that would like to comment on this application for a master conditional use permit for the Mercantile Building, we'll allow you a few minutes to submit your comments. The email address is on the screen.
Okay. We have received, this is Director Herlihy. We've received one public comment from the applicant that I'd like to read to you. I'm going to keep the slide up so that other folks can email if they'd like, okay? So May 8th, 2020, Capitola City Planning Commission regarding Capitola Mercantile Master Occupancy Plan. The Mercantile Building has a total of 7,110 square feet of net tenant spaces. The space has historically been divided into a dozen or more tenant spaces with access from 3 separate building entrances and the adjacent streets, the Esplanade and San Jose Avenue. The proposed master occupancy plan assumes that the building will continue to be used much in the same way, with the same points of entrance and a group of tenants connected to the corridors and common area facilities such as restrooms. What is likely to evolve under this plan is a mix of tenants and the configuration of the individual tenant spaces. The master occupancy plan does not amend the zoning ordinance. All of the requirements for the use permits and design review will still apply to businesses located within the Mercantile Building, including exterior signage or changes to the building exterior. The purpose of this plan is to provide an orderly and predictable method for managing a mix of tenants within the Mercantile Building. The goal is a vibrant, varied, and compatible mix of businesses under one roof that creates a synergism among the tenants and attracts residents and visitors alike. The public's taste and expectations evolve, and venues with a successful cluster of tenants need to be frequently changed to meet these expectations. Thus, at the heart of this plan is a method for the Mercantile to be more nimble and successful at attracting new tenants. The Mercantile site will have a parking management plan that will provide 41 parking spaces, one of the only businesses that has required parking in Capitola Village. This master occupancy plan treats this allotment of building area and uses to be within the allowed parking supply for the Mercantile tenants, and no other review of parking supply and demand will be required. The parking demand for food and beverage uses is higher than for retail uses. The use of the interior space will be balanced between retail and food beverage services. Finally, if some uses do not clearly fit either the food and beverage category or the retail category, they can be permitted if they are within the portion of the building allotted to food and beverage category. A comparison of this vision would be Oxbow Market in Napa, a very successful and vibrant single building shopping mall. See attached photos. The hours of operation will be determined by type of business, with a maximum open hour of 7:30 a.m. for coffee to 12 p.m. for wine tasting. Mercantile management will be available in Capitola Village during all open hours. Please see a list of permitted uses. This will become a vibrant marketplace at the time that Capitola Village is suffering as a retail destination. Thank you, Dennis Norton.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other public comments come in?
Let me see. Yes. Josh Fisher. Thank you so much for your help with this project. We look forward to having a thriving village again in general and bringing the Mercantile building back to life, as well as making it the heart of the village as it used to be. Thank you, Josh Fisher, on-site rep, Capitola Mercantile, owner-operator of the Daily Grind and Left Coast Sausage Works. And
Okay, thank you, Katie. I think with that, we'll close the portion for public comments and bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Christensen, any questions, comments?
I had one question. In your presentation, it said that 50% of the building can be only allowed to sell distilled beverages, basically, or alcohol. Is there, if somebody has a certain use and then they all of a sudden wanted to sell some type of wine or beer, and it's over the 50%, I think it was 442 square feet of additional business is available at this point. It's just straight up not allowed, or is it they can apply through a planning review? Or is it just limited at that point and just, is there any wiggle room for them?
so because it's very specific in the master conditional use permit as a limit, it would be limited, but they could amend the master CUP. If you wanted to put language in the CUP, in the master CUP, allowing them to come to Planning Commission to go over those limits, we could put something to that effect that any additional drinking establishments that go beyond the 50% limit would require Planning Commission approval.
Okay. I just was curious. I'm just wondering if it was, a strict limitation, or if there was area to explore if somebody had the opportunity.
Yeah, that was something staff put in. It was not required by the DABC. So if you wanted to make the, if you didn't want to have a 50% limitation, you could remove that, or you could state that anything beyond the 50% requires Planning Commission review, or you could leave it as is, and that would require an amendment to the master CUP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Welch, any comments?
I just one real quick, Vice Chair Ruth. I just remembered we at one time, I think, had approved, or the city had approved, a parklet for Caruso's, I believe. Is that something that has gone away, that we're not doing anymore, or is that still on the books?
That application was withdrawn.
Copy. Thank you. And other than that, I support it.
Okay. I just want to say the key for me in this is because I think this is a really great thing, mainly because the Mercantile has not had a stellar history of following city regulations. And I think the master conditional use permit program will give the city a better handle, especially with that condition that says all use permits will be reviewed by city staff. So if that remains in there, I can support it. So I'm willing to entertain a motion in a second.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Ruth. This is Director Herlihy. I did, when we did our site visit, one thing that came up that I think, I'm not sure it made it into the conditions, but I would like to make it as an amendment into the conditions if it did not. Currently, there's one bathroom available to the public, and the second bathroom was just for Mercantile staff. If we were to allow all of these areas to be utilized by the public and consumption on site, I think it's essential that we make sure both bathrooms remain open to the public.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? If not, is there a motion?
Vice Chair, this is Commissioner Welch again. I would move that we approve the master conditional use permit with the added condition that we utilize both bathrooms.
And then does that,
I
sorry,
second.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second to approve with the added condition regarding restrooms. Roll call, please.
can I interject for 1 second and have ask Commissioner Welch whether his motion included the direction to staff that the total leasable commercial floor area be amended to 3,212 square feet in both the master and conditional use permit and condition of approval number 13.
Commissioner Welch, yes, I would agree with that, support that.
Thank you.
I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Welch,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ruth,
Aye. Motion carries on a 3-0 vote. Okay, that brings us to item 5, Director's Report. I believe we may have already had that. Anything else to add from the staff?
not this evening.
Okay. Commission communications, any communications from any member of the Planning Commission?
None for me.
Okay, with that, we've reached the point where we can adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in June.
Thank you.
Goodbye.